You're doing the inner work. You're showing up. You're letting go of what no longer serves you. You're choosing growth over comfort. And yet, everything feels like it's falling apart. You've tried affirmations. You've tried stillness. You've said the prayers and held the faith. But the more you align, the more things seem to unravel. You've outgrown your old life, but the new one hasn't arrived. You feel like you're walking through fog, stretching your hands towards something real, something solid. But all you find is air. What once gave you joy feels hollow. What you used to tolerate now feels unbearable. And it's not just frustrating, it's deeply disorienting. Because no one told you that healing would feel like losing everything first. But this isn't a mistake. It isn't failure. What if the disarray is a pattern, one of transformation? What if the universe isn't against you, but realigning you? Because sometimes nothing works, not to punish you, but to position you. By the end of this video, you'll understand why life feels like it's standing still, and why that stillness may be the most sacred timing your soul could ask for. Carl Jung believed that every period of chaos in our lives, every stagnation, every unraveling, is not random, but symbolic. It's not life falling apart. It's the psyche trying to reorganize itself. Through his theory of individuation, Jung explained that the self is always working to become whole. And this journey toward wholeness doesn't follow a linear path. It moves in spirals, cycles, crises. There is no coming to consciousness without pain, Jung said. And the pain we feel when nothing seems to be going our way, that's often the soul's way of slowing us down so we can listen, so we can see what isn't aligned anymore, so we stop forcing and start feeling. The unconscious doesn't respond to logic, it responds to truth. And when your outer world stops cooperating, it may be because your ego is moving in one direction, and your deeper self is pulling you another. Struggle, resistance, delay. They're not blocks, they're thresholds, initiations, portals to a new way of being. In Jungian thought, the soul delays outer manifestations until you're inwardly ready, until the persona drops, until the mask cracks, until you are real enough to receive what's real, to understand why life is standing still. We must walk into the hidden terrain where your soul is silently shifting, and listen to what it's trying to become. Sometimes, when it feels like nothing is going your way, it's because the life you built no longer fits the self you're becoming. You look around, and nothing seems to click anymore. The career that once inspired you now feels like a cage. The relationships you've clung to begin to fray, not because you've done something wrong, but because something deeper in you has shifted. It's as if the life you spent years building is now quietly collapsing, and you don't know whether to mourn it or breathe a sigh of relief. Carl Jung believed that what most people call breakdowns are actually breakthroughs of the self. He described the psyche as a living system, one that sheds what no longer serves the individuation process. Think of a snake shedding its skin, not because the old skin was bad, but because it became too tight. When your outer life begins to fall apart, it might be because your inner life has outgrown it. The job, the relationship, the routine. They may have been aligned with a past version of you, but your soul, it's no longer interested in playing roles it's already outgrown. The ego hates this. It wants to fix, to patch, to control. But your deeper self has no interest in preservation. It's interested in truth, and truth often begins where comfort ends. So if you're feeling lost, misaligned, or stuck in a life that once fit but now chafes, you're not cursed, you're being recalibrated. The discontent isn't a flaw, It's a compass. It's how the unconscious pulls you inward. So the next chapter of your life emerges not from force, but from alignment. Jung taught that when we resist change, the psyche intensifies the discomfort until we finally listen. And what you're calling chaos might be the exact clarity your soul needs to grow. You've reached the edge of an old self. That's why nothing is working. Because you're not meant to fix this version of your life. You're meant to outgrow it. You're not failing. You're molting. And the universe, it's not abandoning you. It's giving you space. Space to pause, to shed, to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. The next version of your life is waiting. But it won't arrive through hustle. It arrives when you're brave enough to release what no longer fits. This isn't an ending. It's an initiation. Let it begin. And just as the old self must shed to make way for the new, you're being stripped of what's false before you can receive what's real. Picture a storm tearing through an old forest, not to destroy, but to clear the underbrush so something new can grow. Carl Jung taught that the unconscious mind acts as a powerful gardener, removing what no longer aligns with the true self. This clearing process can feel harsh, like loss or devastation, but beneath the surface, it's a sacred purification. The things you thought you needed, a relationship, a career, a plan, may suddenly disappear. This isn't punishment or failure, nor is it because you didn't deserve them. Instead, it's because these things weren't your final form. They were placeholders, temporary scaffolding in your growth. The paradox here is sharp and painful. The very comforts you cling to may be the barriers blocking your next evolution. Your ego resists this stripping fiercely, desperate to hold on to familiar security, but the soul calls you towards something more authentic and expansive. The shadow tension in this test is the deep fear of uncertainty. Can you trust that what's falling away is sacred subtraction, not loss? Can you surrender to the unknown and have faith that the emptiness will be filled? This is the crux of hidden soul timing. Sometimes it feels like nothing is working because something deeper is working on you. The universe presses pause on your external life so that your inner transformation can unfold. Until the false has been shed, until the clutter and noise are cleared, the real cannot take root or flourish. So you are invited to lean into this stripping, to hold space for the discomfort, and to see it as a necessary pruning that prepares you for the next stage of your becoming. Trust that what remains after the storm is not emptiness, but fertile soil for your true life to grow. This is the universe testing you, asking you to surrender to the sacred timing of your soul's awakening. And as this shedding unfolds, your ego is being gently disarmed so that your intuition can lead. Imagine holding a map that suddenly bursts into flames in your hands, leaving you standing barefoot on unknown ground as a new path quietly unfolds beneath your feet. Jung taught that while the ego plans and clings to control, the soul listens deeply and moves beyond logic and strategy. Before true transformation can begin, the familiar structures of what should be collapse. Your carefully laid plans falter, your strategies crumble, and you find yourself unable to rely on intellect alone. This forces you to shift from leading with your mind to following your instinct, your inner guidance. The friction inside can feel intense. You may feel lost, aimless, or even irrational as your psychic system rebalances itself. This disorientation is not a failure, but a necessary part of realignment. Your shadow reveals an addiction to control that must be surrendered if you are to move forward authentically. When the mind pushes relentlessly, but life stands still, it is a profound signal that something deeper within you is ready to lead. The soul's path calls for trust in the unseen, for faith in the subtle pull that is beyond words or logic. You are not meant to force your way through this change, but to follow the quiet guidance of your inner self, even when the direction is unclear. This surrender to intuition is the gateway to a new way of being, where your deepest knowing becomes your compass. As the ego softens and the soul steps forward, your reality begins to shift in ways that no plan could have predicted. The old map burns away, and you walk a path uniquely yours, guided not by control, but by trust. As your ego loosens its grip and your control begins to dissolve, your soul invites you into a deeper surrender, ushering you from the frantic need to know and plan into the quiet space where intuition and patience take root. Imagine a seed buried deep beneath the earth, completely unaware of how close it is to breaking through the soil, yet quietly trusting the darkness and the slow, unseen process of growth. Jung taught that individuation, the soul's journey to wholeness, unfolds not on a schedule we control, but in divine timing. Even when you don't see progress or results, the transformation is happening beneath the surface, often at its most intense and profound. The challenge is that the ego craves arrival, proof, and certainty, while the soul asks for presence and integration. Can you learn to dwell in the unknown without needing immediate answers? Can you keep showing up to your own life, even when it feels like nothing is changing? This is the test of true spiritual patience. You are not passively waiting, you are actively becoming. The new life you long for will emerge exactly when your inner world is ready to receive it, when your thoughts, emotions, and spirit align in harmony. This initiation is not about blind faith, but about embodied patience. It's the quiet knowing that every moment of delay, every pause, is part of your unfolding and growth. This form of trust is radical. It requires surrendering the need for control and learning to be present with what is. It's the courage to embrace uncertainty while nurturing the deep faith that life is working through you. You are a participant in a sacred process, where the slow rhythm of inner alignment brings forth external change. Though invisible to the eye, the work underground is shaping a foundation for your next chapter. The soul's timing is perfect, even when it feels slow. And when you cultivate this patient presence, you prepare yourself to receive the fullness of your becoming. This is not a delay, but a sacred pause, a vital chapter in your evolution, where trust becomes your greatest strength. As we settle into this moment, close your eyes and gently place your hand over your heart. Whisper softly to yourself, "I release the timeline. I trust the rhythm of my soul." Feel the steady beat beneath your palm, the quiet pulse of life that moves beyond schedules and plans. Now take a deep breath and allow yourself to simply be. Reflect on these questions. What part of my life feels like it's ending? What might be falling away to make space for deeper truth? Where am I being asked to stop pushing and start listening? Let your answers come without judgment or hurry. Tonight, light a candle, not in grief or resistance, but in faith and surrender. Know that you are not behind nor lost. You are in the sacred process of realignment, where the invisible work of your soul is paving the way for what's next. If nothing seems to be going your way right now, it might be because your soul is preparing to rewrite the way itself. This is not punishment, but positioning, an invitation to release struggle and embrace surrender. The challenges you face are not barriers, but gateways to transformation. You are being aligned with a reality that will not repeat the past, one where you arrive not empty or depleted, but whole and ready. Trust this quiet unfolding. This is Echoes of Psyche, where delays are divine and waiting is sacred.